Hey everybody, Gurmy's Coaster Yard here, and in today's episode of Germanator Studios, we are going to be taking a short break from designing our theme park, the Isle of Ages, to work on our central transport hub, as well as designing one of the other monorail stations. So, as you may know by this point, we are not just building a theme park, but slowly the end product will be an entire resort complex. And ideally, we're going to have a couple parks, not just the one theme park. I'd like to have a zoo and a water park at the very least, in addition to our main dry park. Um, so, fusing all that together, as well as the resort we've started building, um, I wanted to build, well, I wanted to have a monorail slash transportation system. And I showcased this in the first episode of this series very briefly. And today we're getting started on the transport hub. And you can see based on the ground that I've painted, or the terrain I've painted, I should say, I have not given myself a whole lot of space to work with, especially for the central section. And in hindsight, that was probably a bit of a mistake, and I do end up uh, including a little more space out of that. But nonetheless, this was a fun little project, and it was nice to take my mind off of the main park for a little while. Anyhow, right along here, you can see just there I was trying to figure out how tall to make it, and I ended up picking 4 tiles as a height. Actually, 4 and 1/3 tiles as a height. Anyhow, and you can see I saved that as a wall piece, and I'm going all along the edges. When I said wall piece, I mean like a custom scenery. Um, a custom, you know what I mean. I've talked about it in other episodes. Anyhow, we do not finish the station entirely from a functional aspect in this video, but I do finish the structure, and eventually, and ideally, this will get to a point where um, it's completely usable and we're having monorails come out of all 4 arms of the building, but we will make sure that no space is not put to use. One thing that I don't do in this episode, you can see here where I took the tram ride that just goes from the main entrance of the actual world to this transport hub. I elevated that. It was on the ground before. And what I intend on doing is elevating the other section, which I have not done in this episode yet. Um, but I want to elevate the other section and make this more of a people mover style attraction, in terms of having like a covered roof and a little nicer of a support system, and something that the idea behind the trams is that maybe they're a little more dated than the monorail system, and I want to make it feel that way. If you're not familiar, the People Mover is a ride at Walt Disney World. Um, I'm assuming there's one at Disneyland, but I'm not as familiar with Disneyland. Anyhow, but it's just a leisurely ride. It's not actually a transportation ride. It's just a leisurely ride around Tomorrowland. But it's a cool concept nonetheless. And on that note, um, oh, where was I going with that? Anyway, on that note, I want to make something that has that a little more of that retro feel to it, and something that feels unique and connected to the park's architectural themes, um, and just something that's a little nicer than just that tram. A way to make it look nice. That's, I guess, ultimately what I'm going for. Talking about this on screen for a moment, you've seen me do this before, but just a skylight in the way I've done it before, and you can say I saved it as a custom scenery piece because I'm going to need it again on the other rooftops when I finish them. Actually, I won't, because I saved this whole thing as a custom scenery piece eventually. Um, but as always, if you're putting skylights on a flat roof, my suggestion is to elevate them by 1/3 of a wall height and put a nice little trim around them. I used the colored block pieces on mine because I think that looks nice and it fits with the colored wall set that I'm using. In other cases, I've used the LE 1/3, the 1/3 height LE walls, I believe they're called. Anyhow, and there you can see me duplicating that all around. And before I complete this intersection. In fact, to the best of my memory, I did this yesterday, and I'm recording today, and then you're seeing this the day after all that. But nevertheless, um, so I extend the wall height one more, but I don't end up putting a roof on this center section just yet because I want it open for editing when I build the interiors of the other two arms, just to make things easier. So it may very well be that one of the very last things we do in this entire series is put a roof on that center section. But realistically, I think as soon as I know where the water park or water parks are going to be, um, and when I know where the zoo is going to be, specifically in terms of the entrances, then I will be able to pick a spot for monorail stations and subsequently finish off the rest of this transport hub. And I would rather do that than pick a spot for the monorail stations and have to build the water park slash zoo around that. And here you can see I went back and I redesigned the ramp section, or the ramp slash stairs to get up to the upper deck. And what I came up with was a little bit more, I thought it was a little more practical looking. So with the ramp, and I ended up deleting the stairs, and I currently have 4 ramps leading up to either side. And I ended up getting rid of this design. It didn't get rid of it entirely, but I got rid of 2 of the ramps on opposing corners because I figured we really don't need 4 ramps. We hardly even need 2 ramps as it is. But I just had them because there's going to be a high flow of people coming in and out of this place um, on the various monorails, since it's such a central thing for the transportation. And then I forgot about this, but I did end up putting staircases on the 2 sides where I got rid of ramps for people who can use stairs or would rather use the stairs. Um, and then along the outside, I'm just putting trees and shrubs in my basic alternating pattern. Um, it was easier to just start with trees and go all the way around with those, and then go back for the small green bush. If you're placing bushes and you want the bushes to be seen, I always recommend the small green bush because it's larger than the small yellow bush, um, and bigger is better, as always. That's not always true, but you know what I'm saying. Anyhow, and finally, I'm just putting the small hedge piece right along here. This is basically the same as I've done it everywhere else in the park, and this is how I do it in all of my parks. I'm a little stubborn in that regard, but I think this always works great for landscaping slash foliage design, um, and it breaks up the edge of the building, so it doesn't look like just a white building standing in the middle of here. One other thing I may do, and that you could do if you build something similar, is including windows on the sides. And at the time of designing this, I couldn't really pick a way that I wanted the windows to go, so I didn't bother putting windows on the side. But retrospectively, I think along the side of each monorail, windows could look nice and let in more lighting. But anyway, moving on, I decided I wanted to build the monorail station right in front of our Isle of Ages theme park that we have been working on. So you can see me getting started here. I went through with the 4 height wall scenery piece we had, and I was going to leave it at that, but I decided I wanted this to feel more open, kind of like the Magic Kingdom monorail station. So at Disney World, of course. So I got rid of the top 2 walls and went through to match the height of the monorail tracks. I put a 1/3 height wall and colored it blue. If you forgot, our sort of color scheme, or the colors we chose to represent Germanator Studios slash Isle of Ages in this park, are blue and white. And so I went with blue for the railing here. And putting that solid blue stripe in, to me it just made sense, as it sort of felt like a transitional spot for the main train platform. So you have the white base, and then up top you have that nice solid blue line, sort of differentiating it. From a design standpoint, I just think it reiterates what we're going for. Not that I know exactly what that is, but you know. One thing I may do differently, or I may change for the next episode or just in the future if I can remember. Um, I'm tempted to go through and change the slate walls that you can see along the base with block walls because I think bricks tend to make a better and stronger looking foundation. Um, and this was sort of initially based off of the transportation hub, but clearly that changed, um, making this a little more backdated, I want to say, in terms of having a pitch, not a pitch roof, but like a sloped roof, um, and just a smaller individual station. It's not a huge building, and it's not really a huge complex. Um, I don't remember where that started from. I think it started from me talking about just designing it differently. So that's why I had the slate walls initially, was that initial design concept. But I may replace those with the brick walls just to make it look sturdier. Or I mean block walls just to make it look sturdier and to make it look a little more uh, fitting. And you can have the slate on top of the blocks. Um, I don't know how else to explain that, but I think I'm making sense. If not, it's the vague idea is what's important, not the little details. Anyhow, finishing things up, I'm just putting in some final walls along here, and gonna put the final roof pieces in. And I need to find something to talk about for a couple more seconds. And by a couple, I mean a few. But we're putting in the final roof here, and I think we're coming to the end of the video. So I'm going to wish you all a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. And I will see you all in the next episode. Come on, just a little longer. Next episode. Okay, goodbye. Goodbye. Now goodbye.